Hi, the name of this video is What Feminism or Feminists Get Wrong About Racism. I'm going to try to tilt to this side so I could put a picture here of what I'm talking about. Now, feminists usually like to group racism with sexism and make all sorts of comparisons to say, oh, sexism, we just want equality between men and women. How can equality be wrong? It's just like when civil rights and black people ask for equality between races. You're not a racist, right? So you're not a sexist. Being a sexist is bad. Anyway, I would just like to say, racism is something that is more similar to classism than it would be to sexism. And the reason that is because women and men, the sexes, exist throughout all stratas of life. They exist throughout, in every country we have men and women. In every wealth bracket we have men and women. Okay, feminists will say that men own more assets. Okay, but the reality is that at the top, at the 1%, there are women and there are men who have access to that wealth. At the bottom, you have women and men who have access to that wealth. And individuals tend to care about each other when they live together, when they are related. You care about your mother, you care about your brother, you care about your children. So every wealthy guy cares about lots of women. Whereas the very wealthy may not care about the very poor because they're not connected to them in the same way that men and women are connected. So this interconnection between men and women, this codependency, this interconnection is real, and it makes the comparison between sexism and racism very different, in that men obviously care about and are affected by the problems that women face, just as women obviously would care about and be affected by the problems that men make, because the two are interconnected. You as a guy know a lot of women. You have a mother, you have a potential daughter, and so on. So the sexes are interconnected. And sexism, while real, was never meant to be something to hold down women or men. It was a way of working with nature. It was a way of optimizing and making things efficient. That's where sexism comes from. It doesn't come from some sort of sick, mean sort of let's hold somebody down or something. However, classism and racism could be meant in that way, because you as a rich person or whatever, or a certain class of people, don't necessarily care about the people in the classes below you, because your immediate contacts and loved ones are not in those classes by default, by the fact that, so you are in competition with classes. You can have competition between races, not always, but you can. And historically, we did have competition between races. So that's where racism came from. It came from competition. Whereas with sexism, I don't believe that existed. And now I'm going to share a clip where I expand this to how I see racism today or whatever. We in the West are so arrogant. I'm sorry. But I really feel like people who are angry about racism and slavery and things like that are so arrogant in this sense, because we live in the West in a social system where globally people around the world are producing goods that we consume. The fashion industry, the computers, everything. Children in parts of Africa having to go into mine certain products in order to get you a phone. However, right? However it was. The point is, we live in a system very similar to what happened in the past. It's just not on a local level, but it's on a global level. And I don't see, sorry to say this, and I know I'll get real hate, but I don't see Black Americans standing up for the children who are mining in Africa. I don't see Black Americans who complain about slavery standing up for people in the fashion industry and the work that they're doing. And this is the same system.
Yeah. My understanding is that over a 10-year period, 59,000 Chinese men lost their lives in coal mining accidents alone.
Exactly. So this is the same system. This is not different. So if you're going to complain that white people in the past didn't stand up for slaves, then you're a hypocrite if you today are not standing up for people in the third world who are dying to produce products that you use every day.
That's right.
Because it is exactly the same system. There's
Same
no difference.
exploitation. Yeah,
It's the
that's
same
right.
exploitation. It's happening today, and you are
Yeah.
silent. And then you want to tell me that those people who you hate historically were bad? They weren't bad. They were you. They are you. They did exactly the same thing. So it's a complete mess. It's complete nonsense. The concept of hate over this what happened historically is wrong on many different levels. It's complicated, but it's wrong. Um. Okay, race is a very complicated topic, though. So yeah, as you can see in that clip, I tend to think that feminists get it totally wrong in that they compare racism to sexism. Well, I think we should be comparing racism to classism, and my personal thing that I always look at is nationalism, in that I think today nationalism is a huge form of classism because you have countries of people who are significantly poorer and countries of people who are significantly richer. And I'm not saying that we have to turn the world upside down and redistribute wealth or whatever. I'm not saying that, though I know that is the end result of equality, but I'm saying if you're going to complain about something like this, if you're going to look at, then you need to look at it in terms of this is what is the big thing that I would be staring at, in my opinion. Okay? And yeah, the picture here, it shows a woman who is, on top of the world, and all these other people all around the world through globalization are propping up her lifestyle. It particularly shows a woman, since women are the major consumers. We consume more than men. We consume more home goods, clothing, and stuff like that. So we, with our wants, drive consumerism and drive this system blindly without thinking about the people in the third world. Why is that? Because we are not connected to them in the same way we would be connected to men. And so women in the first world would obviously care more about the men in the first world and what rights and what privileges and all that men have, who are potentially connected to them in their class, in their country, in a place where that guy could marry their children, than they would somebody in the third world, than they would somebody who is really far from them, whose class is not the same as them, whose country is not the same as them. And these things can, in my opinion, all be somehow compared and connected. However, sexism, totally different. Sexism comes from practicality and a history where things weren't as easy as they are today. A history where people knew that women were going to get pregnant and have to give birth. There's a lot more I can say on this, but I wanted to make this video short, so